everyone, John right here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the daily market outlook for futures and Forex, where we take a look at our big six markets. The main goal of the outlook is to create a plan for tomorrow so that we know what's going on and that we can be as prepared as possible for tomorrow's price action. So kicking things off, we'll take a look at the futures market, work our way through our big three in the futures, and then we'll go over to the Forex and take a look at those as well. So gold, so far this morning and going into the afternoon, has had some pretty good run, to the upside. The buyers have been fairly aggressive, but there has been a little bit of a pullback. Now, this run higher that we're getting, beautiful first leg up, second leg up, very nice. Third leg up, started to see a little bit of weakness, even trapped the high before it caught a nice deep pullback. Trapped that low underneath there, found support, broke underneath it with a twin reversal, back up, found support, and push back higher. So now we're continuing this drive to the upside with a very wide channel. Now, that wide channel, arguably you could subdivide this into a little bit of a midline. You can see that drawing it around here, you do find some support. We found support there, we found resistance and support there. When it came back, it tried to hold it before it broke down. So that could be an area of interest to keep an eye on as we go forward. But the one big thing that I'm looking at is this area before at the lows, right? This is the exact same thing that happened earlier. Got three beautiful legs to the upside, trapped a low, ran to the highs. Now we have 1, 2, and then a failed third, and now it's coming back down. This is the area where buyers are expected to come in. But because we have a failed third push, they tried, but they couldn't get it going, we may be digging down into the earlier congestion down here. So this would be the area where you would begin looking for, possible scale-in moves, but don't be surprised if you see it go a little bit further to around that cluster low. We'll say right around there at 78.3. So the earliest area where we are right now between 82.2 to 81.9, but the beautiful area that I would love to see down to 78.3 if they can give it to us. The main objective is to go back up towards the highs and finish off that move to retest a bunch of inventory that we found up here at 85.4 to 86.4. So looking to buy on gold, but yeah, you might want to wait and see if they want to hold this low or if they want to go a little bit further down. Over on crude oil, the complete opposite scenario. Very bearish market today and grindy, right? A lot of the movement did happen in the European session. Notice this time, the time frame down here is 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock is when things really started kicking off on crude, and as we moved further and further into the US session, it got choppier and choppier and choppier until the very end of the day where they took just a massive push lower, and now we're just in a complete dead range, right? Now, whenever you get a big move at the end of the day like that, chances are that's the finalization of the move. Sellers are going to be very reluctant to sell that far down now because we've had such a big move already. It doesn't make any sense to sell way down here when you can likely get a pullback after a slightly exhaustive move. So knowing that we have a slightly exhaustive move, what I would really like to see is stay the heck away from this area right here. 51.85 could even be a buy bounce support to get the move going to the upside, but what I would really like to see is selling around 52.26, maybe even a little bit further up if we can get those areas. But the big key level that I would be looking for is to sell around 52.26 for another move back to the downside. Now, if we do get up to that 52.26 and it takes some time, notice that we blew through the bottom of the channel, right? We broke underneath it. That means that if we come back up towards the highs, we should see it break above it. So I do want this to take a little time before it goes up there so that we can be breaking out by the time we get there. If it goes up there too quick, there's a good chance that they're going to go a little bit further up and get a larger swing objective area at around 52.53 for possible selling. So right now I'm looking to sell, but I'm staying the heck away from these lows right now. I'm looking to sell at around 26, and if it goes too fast, around the 53 area for a better price. Over on the Dow is mostly range bound. We obviously have a nice bearish move going on. The bears own the market, but notice what we've been seeing over the last little bit here. Big move down in the European session once again, nice continuation, and a third big push lower going into the morning session of the US, and then we caught a big reversal. Now this reversal couldn't break above the high, so we still have a bearish trend. But when it came time for the sellers to push down to a new low, guess what? All we did was find a bunch of of inventory down here between 822 and 816, got stuck, and now we're bouncing off of this area for an attempted move. Now, this could mean one of two things. Either we're starting to transition into a range, which this would all be of that range, and you'd be looking to sell the highs of the range at around 865 to 871 in that area would be a nice place to sell. But along with that, we are failing to break to a new low, and that does show some bullish strength, maybe a little bit behind the scenes, but if the buyers do end up taking this higher, we could see a slight little head fake above that 871, maybe to test that 886 area first and then push to the downside from there. Overall, I'm still definitely looking to sell, but right now we're going to have a hard time selling it while we still have this inventory support at 822 to 816. So I need to be looking to sell, but I want to be selling a little further up. The earliest area would be an aggressive entry right around 847, maybe above that at 853, but the prime time zone that I would love to see, 865 to 871. Now, over on the Forex markets. The Forex markets were mostly range-bound. Another scenario where the European session had some pretty good movement, but even that was fairly range-bound. We had a move up, then a move down to a new low, then to a new high, and then to a new low, and we push back up to a new high. So chances are we're finding a lot of sellers that are probably selling up here thinking that we're going to cycle back to the downside. The one thing that they're running into, though, is simply the fact that it's not cycling down. The sellers have had every chance in the world to try to sell up at the highs and fade the move lower, sell at the highs, fade the move lower, sell at the highs, fade the move lower, but it's just not going. We just cycled off of a big bearish attempt, and it was immediately taken back by the buyers back above the wedge low. So there's a little bit of a, makes you nervous when you're talking about the bear side when the bears just can't seem to get it going. So what I would rather do here is look to buy at the moment, right? We have a beautiful twin reversal off the bottom underneath an area of reversal, i.e. in this case, we have the rising support, pop back above it. Now we're looking for a secondary bounce to continue to move up. I wouldn't mind selling the highs due to the overall range sentiment, but I'm not going to be looking to sell until we get a new high, right? See them poke their head above it, and then come back and turn their way back lower to a new potential move down. We're very likely starting to transition into a range, and we are coming off of the lows of a range. So at the meantime, I would be looking to buy back up towards the highs of said range. Notice where all of the wick is coming in right around here. Not a ton of room. We're only looking at about 5-10 ticks, but that's the reality where we are right now in the euro is very small distance. But potentially to the upside for short-term buy targets. But I wouldn't mind selling if we make a new high, looking to potentially scale in for a move back lower. So on the euro, kind of looking to play both sides, honestly. Looking at the pound dollar, man alive, this thing started off heavy bearish. And then it just kind of fell apart, right? We had that beautiful bearish movement in the overnight session going into today, and when it came time to go into the European and even the US session, it didn't really go anywhere. We found a massive bottom that got put in down here when they tried to break down to a new low. They failed. When they came back to retest it, they failed again. Then they couldn't even get back to it. So we're likely here again transitioning into a range. The low of which would be at 21,347 to 21,251, and the high of which would be at 21,743 to 21,806. And those would be the areas that I would much rather look to trade in and stay out of this middle area. This is a good place to go if you want to get whipped out. So I'm waiting on sitting on hands, and I'm looking at selling above the highs, and I'm looking at buying underneath the lows, assuming that breakouts at this point in time are probably going to fail given the overall range sentiment that we have here on the pound dollar. I would rather be a seller on the pound given that morning sell-off, but looks like the sellers are running out of steam, so both sides should be applicable. And finally, on the dollar yen, nice bearish momentum to the downside, just beautiful movement. When we came down, big push down, secondary push down, and then the third push down. Very nice three legs to the downside with a weak third leg. Again, probably going to be transitioning into a range. Looks like the range, if it does kick off, probably started back here at around 10 to 11 o'clock. But all things considered, the bears still own this market. The buyers haven't even been able to get separation above the moving average. Every time the buyers have tried to come in above the moving average, it's slapped right back down again. And they get maybe one or two candles above it and push right back lower. So, I mean, there's a good chance that we will get a buy correction for sellers to sell into. Right now, the hot spot would be at 116,290. If we can get a big push higher, I would assume that the sellers would love to see a move up to 116,558 to sell there for a move back down to the lows. So when it comes to the dollar yen, definitely looking to sell, but maybe wait for the buyers to get in, right? And they're not new buyers, they're sellers taking profit, causing a buy rally. Then you're looking to sell into it and drive the market back down to a quick test of the lows, maybe a double bottom, maybe a little bit through it, maybe not quite through it, but either way, looking to sell a little bit higher up to get a move back down towards the lows. So overall, tomorrow may be an interesting one. It was a pretty good day back after a nice holiday. Hopefully everyone had a good vacation and spent some time with the family and just got to rest up a little bit. Overall, though, looking at tomorrow to be probably mostly range bound unless it gets itself, unless it gets it out of its system in the overnight, we might come into a nice mover tomorrow. But at the moment, it doesn't quite look like it. So that's going to do it for this one. Hopefully you found it useful. Make sure to get those plans, trade the plans, follow those rules, and you'll be okay. We'll see everyone tomorrow. Until then, have a good one.